You're at Gangrene UK. You're joining us live for our live chat with Nick Mangold. We're going to get started in a second when Nick joins us.
With the 29th choice in the 2006 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Nick Mangold, center from Ohio State.
We'll just retire as Nick Mangold, the football player, and retire as Nick Mangold, the New York Jets.
So thanks for joining us. Obviously, Gangrene UK have been massive fans of yours since, forever. But more so, you are one of the most successful Jets on UK soil. It's great to have you on. The way we've got this kind of set up tonight, we've got members that are joining throughout from quite a lot of European countries. We've got Sweden, Germany, we've got a couple from France. Everybody's going to kind of pop in because everybody wants to see and ask you a question at some point if they can. Then we're going to keep you pinned on the screen how you are now with myself, Otis and James, who are some of the admin team at Gangrene UK. And then we've got everybody else coming down as and when we can ask you some questions. That's cool.
Perfect. Yeah, it's great.
So I'm going to let Otis ask the first question because he always asks the most detailed ones. So we'll let him go first, and then we'll keep the room going.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with a biggie just because it's automatically what I think of when I think of yourself, Nick. What was it like to carry out the American flag for the Jets on so many special occasions? I can think of you carrying it out at London, at 9/11's anniversary. What was that like?
It was very moving, very touching. The first time I think I got to do it was the 10-year anniversary of 9/11. We were playing Dallas Cowboys at home. And, having gone through it myself, but being in Ohio, I had a much different experience than what people here in the New York and New Jersey area went through. And so having been here, I had been up here for 5 years at that point. And getting to know people, getting to hear experiences, get to hear what they went through. Some of my good friends were working on Wall Street at the time. I had a buddy who was a paramedic who was in the city at the time. So hearing all these different perspectives and everything really added to, what that day meant for me, even years later. And so to be able to carry out the American flag, playing on 9/11 in New York City was a very special and meaningful moment for me. And it's one of the few pictures that I have of me up around the house that aren't of my kids, is me running out with the flag on that game.
That's very cool.
That's amazing. So when it comes to the Jets and yourself, Nick, obviously you were a part of what was a great draft class, the 29th pick. What was it like the lead up? Did you have a feeling of who was going to pick you? Because obviously I know coming from high school, you played the Army Bowl and then you had a great time at Ohio State. But going into that draft, you see it now, a lot of players kind of know where they're going. What was it like for you on that point?
So the draft was kind of crazy for me. When I first came out from Ohio State, a third round pick, and so going through the Senior Bowl and then the Combine, I was able to trick enough people that they kind of put me in the top second round, maybe sneak into the first round. And so I really had no idea. And it's funny, one of my favorite stories of that period is NFL teams have players visit regularly. They're bringing the rookies in, and separate from the Combine, just to poke and prod and see how they do. And at the time, I was living with AJ Hawk, who was drafted by Green Bay at the 5th pick. And so he, I think it was all like the beginning of April. He is crisscrossing the country, flying all over the place, visiting all these teams. And he almost was never home because of how much he was traveling. And finally, at one point, I had to call my agent. I was like, I haven't taken a visit to any team yet. I don't think I'm getting drafted. He's like, no, Nick, you're good. Like, they have, you did all your stuff at the Senior Bowl and Combine, so they have everything that they want to know. So it really was kind of a crapshoot for me. I had no idea and no inkling. And so it was funny, actually, I missed DeBrigshaw getting picked at number 4 because I was out on the golf course and thought the draft started at 1 and it started at noon. So I didn't even know he had been drafted by the Jets until probably the next day when I was doing an interview. And they're like, oh, the Jets taking 2 offensive linemen in the first round. I was like, that's news to me. So it was definitely an interesting time. But yeah, I had no idea, no inkling of where I was going.
Amazing. So that kind of it's funny that you mentioned that the Brick, you not knowing he got picked, because obviously you guys kind of stood out at the Senior Bowl. I think kind of that chemistry that you had, that was apparent then, but those first days, when you went down and you did the first OTAs, Otis asked the question earlier. Did you and Brick know that you were going to be so dominant together for a decade?
No, it was funny. It was funny how things work out, because I first met Brick at the Senior Bowl, and we were on the same team, and we spent some time together. And it was like, that was a neat experience, and I'll never see him again. And then we go to the Combine. I run into him there. And then kind of maybe you run into people here and there as you go through this crazy world of the NFL. And then to be drafted together, and really realistically, as we're going through OTAs and training camp, Brick and I were just scared that we were going to get cut and that we wouldn't make it in the NFL. So to say that we were going to play together for a decade, would have shocked both of us. But it was really neat experience being able to have the experience of doing the Senior Bowl, the Combine, getting drafted, going through it, and having somebody with me that was doing the exact same thing. I kind of likened it to how twins probably feel as they're growing up. They have someone who's always at that same point in their life that have the same experiences, just different routes. And so it was really cool. And it's one of the great experiences that I had was having Brick, kind of by my side the whole time.
Amazing. What's your your fondest memory of playing for the Jets? Doesn't have to be successful, but your fondest.
Yeah, it was funny. I think it was last spring when we didn't have any sports on, so they were just replaying all kinds of stuff, just showing anything and everything. And I was watching, I think it was Easter evening. For some reason, they had that 9/11 game from the Cowboys, and I was watching it. And I was sitting there thinking, oh man, I forgot how much fun we were having on that team, and all the things, even just that one specific game. I forgot that happened. I forgot Reeves got that interception. There was just so much stuff that I've kind of forgotten. And so I meant to do it, and I never got around to it. I wanted to go back and watch Hard Knocks again, just to see the antics that were going on, because it's an hour-long show every week, but they're filming for 6 straight days. The amount of stuff that I know on the cutting floor that didn't even make the show, would be an amazing TV show in its own. So, just seeing all those things. But I think my favorite memory was the first time, my first NFL start. I was in 2006 against Tennessee Titans. And I'll never forget that. They had a flyover right after the national anthem. And it was just like, I'm playing in the NFL. And then beating the Patriots in the playoff game at New England after losing to them in such horrible fashion in the regular season, be able to go back up there when everyone said that we couldn't do it, and to do it and beat Brady on his own turf, what was just an unbelievable experience.
So that's an interesting answer, because I'd got a question down here as what was the biggest game of your career? So I'm guessing, following on from that, that's probably the Patriots game, or is it another?
I think every playoff game was, it's amazing how when you go through a regular season, you always have your local media that's there every day. It's 5 or 6 beat writers, maybe 2 or 3 TV stations that have their regular person there, and that's about it. And it was shocking to me as we were going through the playoffs. Like the first round of playoffs, there seemed to be a little bit more than usual, and then the second round of playoffs, there was a bunch of people, and then we got to the championship games. Like this whole sideline was just full of reporters, and it would just show like how important each one of those games. They kept building, and so every playoff game to me was probably the most important and most exciting games, because you knew if you won, you got to continue on. That's a pretty cool feeling.
Nice.
So, you're a regular on the Pat McAfee show, I've noticed, with AJ Hawk. And last year you made a prediction that we're going to win over 6 games, and unfortunately had to drink some of your own barbecue sauce. What are you thinking for this year, mate?
I know I will not be betting drinking straight up barbecue sauce. While delicious, it's pretty thick. And that really coats the throat as it's going down. I'm glad that Pat allowed me just to do a shot, because the original bet was drinking a whole bottle of it. I think if I drank a whole bottle of it, I might throw up. But just that shot alone, I've never done a shot of barbecue sauce before, and I probably never will. I don't know what the win total is. I didn't look at the lines yet. I assume it's somewhat similar to the 5-6 range.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to make any predictions, because I know I'm going to be wrong. If there's one thing I've learned in my betting since being done with football, is the fact that I cannot bet on sports to save my life.
Steve, I spotted that you had your hand up, so we brought you down. Would you like to ask a question to Nick?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Nick. Thanks for your time.
No worries.
Apologies, your shirt isn't behind me, but I'm afraid, what else can I do? I've only got the one. So the question is really going back a little bit to the draft, a little bit about obviously as you were moving your career towards joining the NFL. Once the Jets drafted you, did you, or how soon did you realise what a player Kevin Mawae was, and how difficult it was going to be to follow him? Because from my perspective as a fan, we had him, we had you. That was a position I didn't even, that was just, I can relax. The centre is taken care of. About half of my Jet fandom was you two guys at centre, so I'm done. I just wonder what it was like for you, how you rose to that challenge. Because obviously you really did rise to that challenge and rise and go beyond, how you got through that, how you worked on that, what you did in terms of your way of looking at things.
Yeah, I think it was really helpful that I was very naive and had no idea about Kevin as I was coming into the league. I never really thought NFL was kind of a possibility while I was going through college. It wasn't until late in my junior year and then through senior year that I might get a shot at it. And since our seasons coincide, I didn't really pay attention to the NFL too much because my college coach, Jim Bowman, he had a great line which helped me a ton. He goes, "Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Just compare yourself to yourself. And as long as you keep improving, that's all you need." Because when I first came into Ohio State, I was following LaCharles Bentley, who ended up playing for New Orleans and Cleveland for a bit. And that man was just a massive human that was huge, who was strong, much faster than me, much stronger. And so it was kind of, I think Coach Bowman noticed that and pulled me aside my freshman year. It was like, listen, you don't need to compare yourself to Charles, and you don't need to compare yourself at the time to Alex Stepanovich, who was also there. Just you need to compare yourself to you. And so and I never really paid much attention to the NFL before getting into it. So I was kind of fortunate that way, that I didn't realize at the time how much impact Kevin had. But I did notice it on the side that people noticed the center position. I think I went all through college with nobody knowing anything about, the center. And so when I got to the Jets and, I was getting a little bit more attention than I did at Ohio State, it took me a little bit, and I was like, oh, that's because Kevin had done such a fantastic job and kind of put the position, in people's minds. And so to me, I think that was a huge help. And I really appreciate, not only the way that he played, but the way that he made the center position so much more present, because it gave me an awesome voice and able to kind of connect more with fans because they already knew that position and that player. So, I'm very fortunate that, my naivety was on point going through college, because I think if I had known what I was coming into in the legacy that Kevin had, it might have been a different story.
Thank you very much for the question. I've got one that we sort of discussed previously before you come on, Nick, and that's that the Jets haven't had a huge number of players that have been Jets for life. What was it like being a Jet for life, and what's it like knowing now that you're one of the few? You're one of the special crowd.
Yeah, it was really important to me. When I was coming up on my contract being done, it was one of those things. When we were talking about negotiations, my agent kept yelling at me because he was saying that I was stupid. I was like, I don't want to be the highest paid center. I'm not trying to be the highest paid center. I just want to know that I'm going to be here for a long time. I think at the time we had just found out that my wife was pregnant with our first child. So I knew that I had a kid coming on the way, and I didn't want to move him around. I wanted to know that I was going to be in the same spot for the next 5 years. And so my agent kept yelling at me. He's like, no, you don't tell him that you don't want to be paid the highest. Like, you want to make as much money as you can. I was like, I do, but I also want to be here for a long time. And so, when we actually got done, it was the Jets that ended up making me the highest paid player, because we never asked for it, which was, which I enjoyed, but I think it was more because Revis was still in his holdout, so they had to look good. So I appreciate Revis for doing that for me. And then after the Jets cut me, and I was doing the rehab and getting my ankle healthy, it came around May or so, this was before the draft. I had taken a visit down to Baltimore, and because, like I said earlier, I didn't take any visits before the draft. It was the first time I set foot into another team's practice facility. I'd never gone to another team's practice facility. Only the Jets. Now, I found that kind of weird when I went down there for the visit, but I was like, whatever. And so I still at that time, I couldn't pass a physical. So they said, we'll wait until you're back. And so then I got healthy, came around OTA. So it was probably the second week of June. They sent over a contract, and they said, and it gave me pretty much what I was looking for a 1-year deal. And I had gone through that whole period of time saying like, oh, do you want to play football? Of course I want to play football. That's what I do. I play football. But it was very abstract. It was just kind of like, yeah, of course I'll play football. But once it got real and they said, all right, you can sign your name this piece of paper, and you'll have to be at work tomorrow morning. It really got me started thinking about it a little bit more. And, I had 4 months with my kids and was really enjoying that time. And as I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? No, I'm done. I love the idea that I was able to say that I played for only the Jets, not traveled around. If I did 1 year in Baltimore, now, I've got my stat line says 2006, 2016 NY Jets, and then 2016 Baltimore. I was like, it doesn't sound right. So, I still kept the door open through 2017 in case someone wanted to throw just a whole pile of money at me. And unfortunately, nobody did. But then I was able to retire in 2018, as a Jet, and, having only one team that I played for was definitely important in that decision. And that was kind of a big motivator for me to not play for any other team. Cause I wanted my kids are all Jets fans. It's one of those things. I actually moved once we retired and everything, we actually moved closer to the facility because my wife wanted our kids to be able to walk to school. So now that I'm not doing anything there, my commute would have been shorter. But it's nice being able to be in the area because I knew I was going to be around here and still have the connections. There's still plenty of people, at the front office that I know. Guys, I don't know any of the players anymore. They've all turned over. But some of the training staff, the equipment staff, and it's nice having those connections. And, that's kind of, a neat thing that I don't think a lot of people get.
That sounds fantastic. Marvin, I believe one of my colleagues has brought you down. Would you like to ask your question to Nick, please?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, Nick, really appreciate that you're doing this. Thank you so much for it. Big fan, of course. I mean, if I look around, I'm one of the younger guys, I think. So I grew up with you with the draft in 2006 and as a Jets fan. So really excited for that. You told about your connection with the Brickishaw Ferguson and you come together as a one draft class. Besides him, who helped you, I think, a little bit, or you helped you both. Who was your mentor per se? Who was the one guy, if there is one, a coach, a player who helped you the most, especially during your early days at the Jets in the first couple seasons?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I had a bunch of people that really helped me along the way. First off, being Chad Pennington, teaching me about protections and the importance of the protections. That was a great gift from him early on, being able to move people around and knowing the whole, not just knowing what the offensive line has to do, but also the tight ends and the running backs. That was a big help. Brandon Moore, who was my right guard for, I think we played together 8 years. He was a huge rock for me, that veteran presence, unwavering. He didn't talk a lot, but when he did, he listened. Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach I think I had him for 4 years. He was unbelievable. And then Alan Faneca, when he came over from Pittsburgh, he was in the later stages of his career. And he taught me a lot, not only on the field and as a player, how to take care of your body, because he had to do that now. But also off the field. He had his daughter at the time was 3. And so he made it a point that he was a football player when he walked in the door, but as soon as he walked out of the door, he was a dad. And he never took, like, guys would take film home to study and everything. And Al would be there till 6 or 7 at night at the facility studying film. I was like, why don't you just take this home? Like, they give you the little video player. Why don't you just take it home and watch it? He goes, no, when I go home, that I'm daddy, and if she wants to play, we'll play, or we'll eat dinner together. I'm not going to be sitting there watching film at home doing my studying there. So I do all my work at the facility, and that was a huge help because that I was at the time kids were well far off in my mindset, but it was kind of implanted in me that, hey, when you go to the building, you're working, but when you're out of the building, you're taking on the role of dad. And so that was a big help. Alan was a big help, not only for football, but also personal life as well.
So Bry's got a follow-on question about Chad.
Hi, am I on? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello, mate. Hello, Nick. You okay?
Hello.
Right. The question is, what was your reaction when the Jets traded Chad to Miami, and the Jets brought in Brett Favre? And another part of that, do you think Favre did himself justice at the Jets?
Yeah, so the first part of that with it was crazy. I remember we had flown to Cleveland for a preseason game, and we had our nightly meeting, and we're heading to bed, and I get a text from my buddy who was playing in Green Bay. He's like, I think we're sending Brett to you guys. And he goes, I just saw it on TV. So then I turned on the TV and, the rumors were swirling and everything. I was like, this is crazy. So I reached out to, I forget who it was. I texted him. I was like, is this really happening? He goes, yeah, they just sent Chad back to New Jersey. And I was like, and my mind I was like, but he's our starting quarterback. He's like, well, yeah, but you're getting Brett Favre. I was like, yeah, but still, I mean, like Chad was our start. Like especially since we were in Cleveland for a preseason game, really like couldn't process it. And so we get up, we go to the stadium, and we're sitting there. It's before the game, and we had made the trade. They had, the video of Chad leaving Florham Park, I think. And, it was all this crazy. So we knew that Favre was coming in, and Favre comes into the locker room. This was right before the game. So we're all, sitting there getting ready to go out. He comes walking through, and it's just this like aura surrounded him of like a conquering general. Like everyone's just looking. I remember, I watched Brett, growing up as a kid. So the fact that he was now our quarterback, I was like, this is crazy. Especially since we were so far apart in age. I think at the time he was 39 and I was 23, 24. So it was just like, I've got nothing in common with you. This is weird. And so it was kind of mind blowing. Then all of a sudden it was like, well, we're still in the middle of preseason. Like we just have to make this work. And so you never really got to process the idea that, they just got rid of Chad and brought in Brett, and it was like, blew things up. On the second part, Favre was great until he got hurt. And I think I don't know what transpired between doctors, Brett, coaches, but we were rolling. I think at the time, we made it to 8-2. We had beaten Tennessee and New England, I think. And then it's like the wheels fell off the cart and came crumbling down. And, I truly believe with that team, because that was 2008, and then Sanchez comes in 2009, and we still have continued success, even with a rookie quarterback. It was that team. And if Favre didn't get hurt, that would have been a great chance at a real true run at a Super Bowl, because the way that he was able to move the ball around and make plays were just amazing. And so it was kind of Brett played kind of Wild Wild West, where he just made stuff up, and we kind of had to work around that. But it was still, other than the fact that we didn't make the playoffs and didn't really accomplish much. It was a lot of fun as the season up until we started losing.
Okay. I believe Marky has a question. I will hand over to Marky.
How's it going, Nick? First of all, thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Something a wee bit kind of off-piste. Obviously, 164 games, 164 starts. So you've spent the majority of your life being a bit of a warrior. Obviously, you did track and field, wrestling. How has Nick adapted to life after the NFL? How do you win in life now?
Make sure I keep my kids alive. I think that's the big one. And it's funny, I feel like they beat me up more than football did, but it's nice waking up feeling good in the morning, not feeling like I was in a car crash the day before. I miss football in the sense of the locker room, the mental aspect of the game, the competition of it, the wins and losses. I remember it was shortly after it was done. I think this was 2018 or so. I had gotten a call to do some sort of, it was some weird football competition that Barstool Sports was doing. And ended up going in. It was 2 teams. Our team ended up winning. And it was the first time that I had won anything since I was done playing, like any true competition. And like that burst of excitement, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that. And so it's found different ways to find that competitive side, because like once I got into like suburban dad life, the competitions that they do, I lose all of them. So like any of recently my kids just got done doing track and field, and at the last meet they had a parent kid relay race, and so there were some dads there that obviously were avid runners and whatnot. I am not an avid runner, so I knew we weren't going to win. And so those competitions, like I know that I'm not going to win that. So it's tough finding things that I can win at. But it is fun, just doing the dad stuff. My kids are 10, 6, 5, and 2. And so they keep me busy. They're a lot of fun. I take them to school every day. I pick them up from school every day. And so it's kind of where I am. And so anytime someone's like, someone would come up and say, oh, we'd love to have you back on the team, or, wish you were still playing. I was like, you don't want me now. Like, I'm domesticated. I bring nothing to the table anymore.
The family's quite sporting. Your sister's a power lifter, weightlifter.
Mm-hmm.
So who can squat the most, bench the most?
Oh, obviously the older brother can always win. But it was neat being able to see her compete in the Olympics, and heading over to London for the 2012 Olympics. That was an awesome experience, because it was just one of the difficult things that I always struggle with football is that it's not an Olympic sport. So there's never any way for me to represent my country on a world scale. And so to see her be able to go over and represent our country in a competition was pretty awesome. It was pretty neat to see. And I had never been to an Olympics before. I was only there for, I think we were there 26 hours or so, something short, because it was during training camp. So it was quick hitter. But I mean, they had one of the running races. It was going right by our hotel. Just all the excitement, all these different countries coming together and competing. It was a really cool experience.
So you mentioned London, Nick. Obviously, Jets are coming over this year. Will you be partaking in the party?
I'm planning on it. I hope so. My wife and I have been discussing maybe making a whole European vacation out of it, taking the kids, because when we played in 2015 at Wembley, we had gone over the summer before and did some PR and charity work, and I think it was a 5-day trip. We took the kids with us, and so I did some of the media stuff and the charity stuff, and the kids kind of went around and did some of the sightseeing. But then we were able to we pushed it an extra day, took a train to Paris, and did Paris for the day, and came back to London. And it was an awesome experience, and I loved it. And so that was obviously 6 years ago. We have added 2 more kids, and they've all gotten a little bit older. And so they would love to be able to take them over there. We didn't get a chance to do Germany or Italy. So we were hoping that, maybe if we could bookend it, where the game in London, it's kind of the middle of our trip, and we kind of bounce around a little bit, and be able to hit some of those other countries at the same time. It would be a lot of fun. So I have my fingers crossed. I'm hoping that the Jets are going to allow me to do stuff over there for them, because I think some of the content opportunities would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Obviously, I'll have a chat with Russ separately, but if we can do something, we'll try and do something with the sauce as well. So
that'd be awesome.
Barbecue, and we'll get some of the Jets guys. We've got 200, I think, coming from Germany over for the game, even if they get tickets or not. So we could probably have a really good party. And I've heard you're the best at barbecue anyway. So
of course, that's what I have to say.
We'll find a good smokehouse and we'll set something up.
Lovely. I'm always good for a pint, and I always love good food. And so, it's just as soon as I saw that the Jets were playing in London, I mean, I had like 4 texts sent out. It was like, we need to go, we need to go, we need to go. Because I think it helps that we won. You know, when we played, that made life a little bit better, you know, gave me a better taste for it. But being over there, I think we got in, we took the red eye Thursday night, got in Friday morning, or no, we took the red eye Wednesday night, got in Thursday. So we had 4 days there. And it was a really neat experience. I mean, we were still kind of locked down and locked away from, you know, really experiencing things. And I was very fortunate that I had that week in the summer beforehand. But it was still just being where we were, you know, being able to get out a little bit, and see some of the little town that we're in. I don't even know where we were. They kind of, they bust us in, you know, kept us right there and then took us out. So, but it was an awesome experience, and I really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Callum has got a couple of questions. I know we're getting a little tight on time, so we'll get them questions and then we'll do a quick wrap up if that's cool. Cal?
No worries.
Yeah. Hi, Nick. As everyone said, thanks again for your time. I'm studying sports journalism at university. So with your responses, am I all right to write a little article on the responses you're going to give me?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. I've just got a few. Just a quick one to start with. From a British perspective, obviously seeing how NFL is evolving over here, how do you think that's going? Do you think a lot more needs to be done, or do you think it is going really well?
No, I'm actually, you know, and it's unfortunate that I haven't been back over since 2015. But when we came over and we did some of that charity work in the summer, one of the things that we did was a NFL Play 60 football camp. And they probably had 200 or so youngsters there running around. And I told everybody this, you know, at the time and then afterwards, if you put earplugs in and just watch the kids and watch the instruction, you would have thought you were in middle America, watching these kids play. Like they had a full grasp of what they were doing. And the only thing that was different was the accents. You know, it was exactly the same. And I was like, you know, this, for something that I thought was so foreign as American football, you know, being played in London, you know, those kids look like any kids here in America. And so I'm intrigued to see what it looks like now, you know, having those kids have now gotten older and there's now more kids coming in. And it seems like the excitement is there for American football. And, you know, it's been neat seeing, you know, because I remember we sat there, it was like a year later, my wife and I were just sitting there like, oh, well, you know, it would be awesome, because they were talking about, I think it was right around then when they were talking about a franchise in London. And so we were batting around like, oh, you know, how awesome would that be, you know, if that was our first, you know, when we were 24, you know, living in London and doing all that. And so like we figured out how to make the franchise in London work, just the two of us, as we were sitting over having wine at dinner. And, you know, it was a lot of fun. And so that excitement, is neat. And I'm just intrigued to see, you know, hopefully, you know, being able to go over there again 6 years later to see, you know, how much more it's built up.
And obviously people have talked about the draft. I find it so intriguing. I think it's one of the better things about the game, with having nothing like it in the UK. When obviously you were at Ohio State and all of the hard work paying off getting drafted, did you realise the amount of impact you were going to have on the Jets and on the amount of people that are associated with the franchise? Did you realise how big of a name you were going to become?
No, not at all. And I still don't really. Every once in a while, something happens in my life, and I'll just look at my wife and be like, "Hey, this is a stupid life that we're leading here, because, you know, this big idiot, just because I was decent at football, you know, gave us this opportunity, or this happened, or something like that." So I still don't really. And it was crazy too, because when I first started at Ohio State, that was the pinnacle. Like, from where I came from in Dayton, Ohio, being able to play for the Ohio State Buckeyes, like that was all you needed. You know, you do that and be like, all right, well, now I'm going to sell insurance and, you know, live in Columbus, Ohio. And, you know, that's going to be the day. So when I first got there, it was like, all right, you know, this is great. I did it. And it wasn't, like I said, until junior and senior year when I saw some of the people that I was either playing against or that were on our team getting drafted. was like, oh, well, maybe I'll get the opportunity to get drafted and sneak a couple of years in the NFL and then come back to Columbus and then sell insurance. So I never once envisioned how this would all work out to where it is now at the ripe old age of 37.
And obviously, being such a great player as you were, was it an easy transition from playing to retirement? And how often did you get the feeling of wanting to get back out there and play?
I actually never had the feeling of wanting to get back out there and play. I did want the feeling of being able to go and have the excuse, well, honey, I got to go to work. So you got to deal with the kids. I got to go. That was probably the biggest transition, was that, my wife every once in a while would be like, hey, what do you have tomorrow? I have this. And I was looking at her like, well, you know damn well what I have tomorrow. I have nothing. And it's the same every day. I have nothing. And so that transition, I think, was a lot harder than wanting to be on the field, getting after it. Because the nice part is, and what I've really come to appreciate, is that I can still enjoy football in a different way, but still enjoy it and still wake up feeling fine. So, that transition, that being able to do that made that a lot easier.
And just a final one from me, sort of seeing the journey of the Jets since you've been in retirement, how do you think the new group are doing? And do you think we'll be seeing a new Broadway Joe with Zach Wilson, just as a bit of a fun question?
I don't know. I thought Sam was going to be the guy. And, it's been difficult, as we all know. I think it's now 10 years since we've gone to the playoffs. And so it's difficult because, like I said, my kids are fans. And so having to deal with my son being like, well, why can't the Jets win? Like, I don't know, buddy. He's like, well, can you go fix it? I can't fix it. I don't do anything for that. And so it's frustrating. And, every time you get a new coach or you get a new star player, you hope this time is going to be the time. And I have my fingers crossed. I like what they've done. I like some of the messaging that's come out. And I am concerned with Zach Wilson as a guy coming out of BYU, and being thrown into the spotlight. New York City is a wild place of great expectations. And I watched it happen with Sanchez. I watched Mark come in here as a rookie, and all the pressure that he had to deal with being the next Broadway Joe. And so I'm hoping that Zach understands that, sees that, what Mark had gone through just a handful of years ago, and relies on some of those people to help him be like, hey, listen, it's not all on you. It's a team game. It doesn't have to just be you. And that will help him go a long way, because if he starts believing like, oh, he has to make everything happen, it's not going to go well. And he seems like he has a good head on his shoulders, seems like a good family. And so that's my big thing. As long as he doesn't get too much pressure put on him or put on himself, hopefully we'll be all right.
Cheers. Thanks a lot, Nick.
No worries.
Chris has got a quick question as well.
Yeah, hi. Thanks. Everyone else said thanks again for coming on. It's really, really cool. I guess you said there you're getting asked, can I fix the Jets? Will we be seeing a coach Nick in the future?
I don't think so. I think the highest level that I would coach would be high school level football. I don't think college. I can't do college coaching because I can't go into a 16, 17-year-old kid's house and say, you're the best thing I've ever seen on the field. I want you to come to my school and play. I can't do that because I don't believe that. I couldn't straight up lie. And NFL, while I would love to, and especially since, Florham Park, where the Jets facility is 5 minutes from my house, it would be very easy, but it's difficult. There's no loyalty in the NFL coaching world. You can be the best offensive line coach, and a new head coach gets hired, and he promised 10 years ago, if he ever got hired, that he would bring in this guy as his offensive line coach, and next thing you know, you're out. So I don't think I could do the NFL. And so it's fun. I coach my son right now, third, fourth grade, fifth grade range. It's a lot of fun. And it's neat seeing kids playing the game just for the fun of it, to be with their friends and to, just play the game because they love it. After seeing the business side and, seeing the NFL, the professional side, being able to see kids doing it again has been a lot of fun.
Amazing.
Cool. Thank you.
Much. Mm-hmm. Are you okay for a couple more, Nick, or do we need to wrap things up?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So there's a couple that we always sort of get talked about during training camp. There's been a few quarterbacks that have fallen foul of it. Sam, most recently. Gifts to from quarterbacks to offensive linemen for protecting them. What was the best one you got?
Oh, that's tough. So the first one was kind of my introduction to quarterback gifts. Was Chad Pennington got all of the offensive line a Blu-ray DVD player, and this was when they first came out. So this was 2006. This thing was massive. It was huge, and I was just like, "Oh, this is amazing! Like, it's so cool. I would never buy this for myself in a million years." And now seeing how small they are, it's funny. But that was kind of one of those things. It was like, wow, I didn't even know this is a thing, and here, I'm getting it as a gift. And then Sanchez was really good. Sanchez did a great job of taking care of his offensive line. One of the early things he did, which was an awesome move. Funny, looking back at it, but it was an awesome move. He sent, I think it was after his rookie year, so this was going into his second year. He sent all the guys' wives flowers on Mother's Day, and it was like, that's a nice move. But then there's also some guys being like, "Why are you getting flowers from this guy named Mark?" Like, well, no, that's Sanchez. That's your quarterback. Quit causing problems. But he got us the best one he did, which was a great move. He got us a travel voucher with a travel agency, and so we could use it to go anywhere. And the one that the lady said, we'd really enjoy was going to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. Never thought of it before, and was like, oh, all right. So my wife and I, it was the year that the Pro Bowl was played in Miami. We went from Miami and flew straight to Cabo and stayed there. I think we ended up staying there like 2 weeks, and it was after the season. We had gone late into the season. We had the Pro Bowl, and it was just like the piece of Cabo was unbelievable, and it was just, I was sucked in. It was awesome.
Okay. So I have to ask a little extension onto that one. On Hard Knocks, obviously it was mentioned about your contract extension, where they did make you the highest paid center. And Mark was interviewed about it, and he said, he has got the deal, but I don't know the numbers yet. But when I get the details, I'm going to get him to take me out for dinner. So did you take him out for dinner?
No, I still make him pay. Even to this day, I still make him pay whenever we get together. It's easier that way. That way we don't get any power struggles or anything. He knows that he's got to pay. But it's funny too, because he was mad. His rookie year, we had drafted a guard in like the 6th round, I think, his rookie year. And so at the end of the year, we always do a rookie dinner where the rookie offensive lineman takes the vets out to dinner. And so he wanted, being the good guy that Mark is, he wanted to help this 6th round guy out because he knew it was going to be expensive. So we go and we have a fantastic dinner in New York City, and we're getting ready to leave, and he still talks about this. And we grabbed a magnum of it was some Cabernet. It was a high-end one. It was like, oh, we should take this back for Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach. This will be his Christmas gift. It was like, you guys bought a bottle of wine at a restaurant, so it's doubly marked up as it is, so you could give it to your coach as your guys' Christmas gift. I was like, well, you're a rookie. Like, it works out.
That's class. Marvin?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, you played 10 years, played against a lot of great players. Who was the best player or the toughest player you played against?
Yeah, that one for me is pretty easy because it was Vince Wilfork for the New England Patriots. Vince and I ended up playing against each other. I counted it out. I think it's 23 times, and we had a ton of battles. And he, looking at him, you could tell that he was going to be tough to play because I think he's all of like 6'1". They listed him at 330. It was probably 360, and he's a big man. But what you can't see by just looking at him is he's also crazy athletic, and he can get off the ball quick, and he's really fast. And there was a rumor going around for a long while that Vince could dunk a basketball. I was like, there's no way that Vince can dunk a basketball. And then 2015 or so, we got Pepper Johnson, who was the defensive line coach in New England for a long time. He came over to us. And it was one of the first things. We have Ohio State connection, so that made it a little bit easier. It was one of the first things I had. It was like, Pep, you got to tell me, like, convince dunk a basketball. And he looked at me and goes, Nick, if I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it either. But yes, Vince can dunk a basketball. I was like, that's crazy because he is too big to be able to dunk a basketball. And it's just, it was a great battle. And, we had, I won some, he won some. We've had a lot of stalemates. But we always knew what we were getting ourselves into.
Okay, so leading on from that, you mentioned obviously Vince and playing against those D lines. A lot of the blocking for yourself come down to blocking for some extremely good running backs, particularly through the Sanchez era and getting to the championship games. Who was the best running back you blocked for? Who was the guy that made your life the easiest?
Ooh, that's a good question because Thomas Jones was fantastic. Like he was a downhill guy that really could see the hole and hit it quickly. Obviously, LaDainian Tomlinson was just a pleasure, in a Hall of Fame career to be able to say that I was able to block for him was really cool. The one that I think not so much in the running side of life, but Bilal Powell was one of the best pass protection running backs that I think he gets zero credit for, which is disappointing because he took pass protection probably as seriously as the offensive line, and he knew where he needed to be, he knew who he needed to block, he knew our calls, so we were all on the same page. Unfortunately, I don't think he gets any credit for it. But he was by far the best pass blocking running back that I blocked for.
That's awesome. We're big Bilal fans as well.
Yep.
So yeah, quite glad that you said that. Thanks for your time, Nick. It's been unbelievable. Thanks so much for doing it.
No problem.
I'm looking forward to working with the Sauce shortly. Can't wait to get it into the UK and then further afield. I know Marvin and the guys in Germany are excited for it. So, it'll be very cool.
Very.
Awesome. I really appreciate you guys having me on. And, I look forward to hopefully being out there. What is that? October 9th we play over there. So,
yeah, I think so.
I'm excited to get over there
10th.
and hopefully we can have a nice little party.
Oh, definitely. We'll keep you updated on what we have planned, and we're chatting to the Jets as well. So if we're all chatting to them, we'll make sure we get over. And we're speaking to Jeff Reinbold on Sunday, so we'll see if Sky Sports will have you over. So there's loads of people wanting you to come, so you've got to come.
Perfect. Well, then if I have to come, I guess I have to come.
Amazing. So thanks for coming on, Nick, and we will let you get ready to go and get the kids from school.
No worries. Cheers and have a great evening.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Legend.
Cheers.
Yeah!